Just admit it. Y'all thought that Anya forgot her pantsu. I know it. Yes, we all know it. Y'all thought that she forgot her pantsu to school. I will have to admit, there was a cute and there was funny sides to the first segment of this episode 19 of Spy X Family, but gosh, it felt like we wasted an episode. There's a side of me that was almost a little bit let down. I honestly, again, I think Anya and Becky really kind of pulled something out of that first segment, but I'm going to be perfectly clear. George Gloomman, this boy, why? Why do I care? Now, granted, it gave a little bit of clarification as to who hired this really terrible spy to sabotage Damian, but at the same time, it was like, did we need, 70% of this episode to go to it? It had a cute, sweet spot at the later part, I want to admit, but at least we got Yor this episode. It wasn't Yor taking anybody out, but it was a little cute and silly at the same time. I was kind of surprised about how much it kind of pointed out that Yor was doing crazy stuff and Lloyd could have seen her do something, but I guess to her credit, despite not having seen Lloyd, she thankfully didn't do anything crazy to, again, create suspicion. But no, the beginning of this episode, again, points out the fact that this George was trying to sabotage Damian, and the reason that he was doing that is because he thought that his father was losing his company. And I kind of assume that I think about the point in which he was asking everybody to help him with stuff, to do these final things, it was acting as if this George kid was dying. I think at the time that was starting to go through all these different things that he wanted to do before he was kicked out of the school, I sort of at that point was like, yeah, this kid ain't going nowhere. It's gonna be a misunderstanding of some sort, and he's not going anywhere, because they're really playing into this idea that everybody's trying to help him, and then he's gonna have to come back realizing that he's not really leaving, which was dumb. No, this kid was going brutal. Found a butt, said that it was Damian's, and then punching himself, and Anya having to come in and rescue Damian, which I thought was really sweet. But then it kind of turns this whole really dumb thing with him saying he wants to do these last things. He wants to wear a Stella. He wants to eat this food. And I'm like, oh gosh, please. But eventually it did go into something funny, which was this idea that he wanted to do this song with everybody before he leaves. And so Becky, being as sweet as girl as she is, starts singing, and for some stupid reason, Damian goes over there and starts dancing like it's some sort of festival. I don't know. Maybe they have people dancing in that festival, and maybe he's going to be a part of that, but it's like, Damian, dude, what are you doing? But I like how Anya gets to end up being like the one thing that is reflecting us all, where she's standing there like, Becky, really? And then everybody's singing this big chorus, and he's super happy, and Anya's just sitting there the entire time with his face like, what are we doing? Anya gets to be all of it. The kids were sweet, like totally heartwarming moment, obviously, because all these kids are very upset for Gloomman, but at the same time, it's super cheesy. You can't deny that it's super cheesy, and Anya again gets to be that one that's just like, what are we doing here? And then yes, he goes to leave, and everybody's giving him gifts. You know, we won't forget you. Here, take this. And then Anya's like, I found this leaf. I seen the comments of people saying, let's all admit that the leaf is the most treasured thing out of everything he's receiving because it's from Anya. But yeah, that all goes to the wayside the moment that he realized, oh yeah, the Damian family isn't terrible. The Desmond family's not terrible because they actually bought out the Gloomans pharmaceuticals to help them. And so, yes, he is losing his status as a CEO, but it's not like he can't go back to that school. And yes, they're technically saved by the people that he thought was the enemy. So again, it goes in it twists itself a little bit into something sweet. This idea of a misunderstanding and how terrible you were. But again, him going back to school and everybody looks terrible. It looks like Anya got her leaf back. She put her arm on his shoulder and this leaf falls. I thought it was a nice touch. And I forgot to mention it, but another great Becky moment was at the beginning of this episode with this whole thing about how, well, Papa's fine because I didn't get any bolts. And then Becky's like, oh my gosh, he's super strict, isn't he? Now she's more excited because she thinks that he's actually a monster inside. So Lloyd is a monster. Becky. Girl. There was a couple points in this episode it really felt like Becky and Damian were kind of connecting too, which is kind of weird. Like, she was defending Damian for what George was saying, and additionally, she was the one that spoke up and sung, and Damian joined her in the dance. So it was almost like it was trying to pair the two of them, which I don't think. Like, no. No, Becky, no. Becky's way too good for Damian. But no, the other segment of this episode sort of saved it for me with it being a little bit let down. The idea that, yes, we got technically a segment of Yor. For once in this entire season, we finally get some Yor. And that's her realizing at some point that Anya left behind something, and she's afraid that she's going to get expelled because Lloyd says something to the effect of how strict they are and the bolts and everything. So she decides to go to school and bring this thing. I love how, like, she's waiting for this bus, and at some point this flower pot drops, and she's able to kick it straight up so that it lands perfectly back on the windowsill. It's like, sure, okay, it's Yor. But no, it was great. Seeing her kind of jumping around, doing a bunch of parkour to get all the way to the school, and then realizing at some point that she has secretly to give it back to Anya. And at some point, yes, Lloyd notices Yor is there and is trying to figure out why she's there. Obviously, Lloyd's always there in order to keep an eye on Anya and see if there's anything he can do, even though he technically does squat. It's pretty sad to realize at some point that, yes, Lloyd is supposed to be there all the time watching Anya, but besides, like, the first time that she arrived there and the time that he changed her records, he hasn't really done anything. But like how this one kid at some point, it's like, did you hear about the ghost in the tower? It's supposed to be some spider lady, and sure enough, she climbs up the side of it. I thought the same thing. I was like, that whole little like roach noise sound effect they make whenever they're climbing across the wall. It's just, it's so a Japanese thing. But yes, eventually leads to Yor finally seeing Anya. That was really cute, having that little moment where they're both kind of, they did that trope thing where they're looking around the corner and the other one looks around the corner. But the entire time, technically, Anya can hear Yor. So she knows she's there. She just can't find her. And eventually she finds her, and yes, you forgot your PE clothes. And she's like, there's no PE today. And yeah, Yor's shocked. And yes, it kind of wraps up with Lloyd realizing that Yor went there for no reason and wants to, you know, boost her morale because she feels like she's a failure of a mother. And so he takes her out to lunch. So it was cute. So yeah, despite my frustrations with this random George guy and how much I felt like it was a waste of an episode, again, there's still little segments inside there that they still managed to pull some fun out of it. So even at its least, this show still pulls things off. But I will say the preview for the next episode looks really, really, really good. It looks like we have this new introduction of the character that's in the intro. Apparently, she's going to be in the episode. It looks like Anya's getting involved in something. It looks like we're getting the return of a secret agent Anya. It looks like things are possibly going to ramp up with this next episode, which makes sense because we're starting to go at least halfway through the season already. So things should start building up to a climax, but at the same time, we didn't have a build up to a climax in the last core, so it kind of kicked off at the beginning of this core. But at the same time, I do feel like they're probably trying to map things out so that you can get to something really big at the end of here, because this is technically all one big season. It's part 1 and part 2. But we'll see. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Do you like the George segment? Like George specifically. Like I said, I still enjoy things in there. But additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. I greatly appreciate everybody that does. And y'all take care.